Thank you so much, Shajiji and GTOB, for giving me this great opportunity. May the Lord make us do this program without any hindrances. Math, meter, and melody. First prayer to Ganapati Bhagavan. Om, 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 Gananam Tva Ganapati Tam Kavameve Kavim Kavinamuvamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspada Anushranvanutibhisyena Sadhanam Om Mahaganapate Namaha. Meaning, O Ganapati, to you who are the Lord of all the Ganas, we offer our sacrificial oblations. You are the wisdom of the wise and the uppermost in glory. You are the eldest Lord, and in the nature of Brahman, absolute consciousness, you are the embodiment of the sacred Pranavanama Om. Please come to us by listening to our prayers and be present in the seat of this great opportunity that we are getting. Thank you so much. Invocation prayers to all the Gurus. Guru is the one who removes the ignorance in all of us. So, Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. As we see, Lord Shiva is the first Guru and Shankaracharya is in the middle. And our immediate Gurujis like Sri Devi ji, Shaji ji, and Sri Valsa ji are the immediate Gurus to us. Thank you, and we want to have your blessings throughout the program. Salutations to my parents who are 70 years old and they are living and taking care of my 93-year-old grandmother, and the Guru and all the audience, because you are God's manifestation. Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Invocation prayer for learning. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Lord protect both of us, who is learning and who is also the knowledge here. May He nourish both of us with knowledge. May both of us make effort for the capacity, for the knowledge to take place. May what is studied by us be brilliantly clear. May we have no misunderstanding. Let there be freedom from three possible obstacles: the forces over which we have no control, Adi Daivika, from the beings around us, Adi Bhautika, from factors centered on ourselves, Adhyatmika. So overview of this program is the math. What the overall number of a lot of mathematics is involved in Bhagavad Gita. We'll talk about all that, and the meter, which is the chandas, and the melody that it creates. So this is a beautiful art that has been put into our Vedas. Vedas are like the body of God. They all are divided into Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. Samhitas, they are the mantras and the benedictions that the Lord is offering us. Brahmanas, the text of rituals, ceremonies, and Aranyakas, commentaries on rituals, ceremonies, and Upanishads, that are the texts discussing meditation, philosophy, and spiritual knowledge. And we're going to look at Vedangas, because Vedas is the body and Vedangas are the limbs of the Vedas. Shiksha, basically they deal with phonetics and morphology, whereas Kalpas, they deal with the rituals, behavior pattern, and code of conduct. Vyakarana, that deals with the science of grammar. Nirukta, text of etymology. Chandas, which is the main topic here in this discussion, deals with the science of meters, prosody or versification. So how it is being divided into different verses. And Jyotis, which is the science of astronomy. So without the Vedangas, the Vedas can't move. And so these six are important for the Vedas to move along all our pure consciousness so that we can actually get all that energy into us. So, Chanda Padau tu Vedasya, the signs of meter, prosody is the feet of the Bhagavan who is Veda himself. So, this is a quote from Paniniya Shiksha. And Vacha Prajatani Chandasmi. This is an important context here in the Shatapada Brahmana. The study of Veda is incomplete if the study of the meter is not undertaken. So clearly, this is a very important step for us to move towards understanding Vedas as well. So Chandas has a very deep history, and the history is by Sri Pingalacharya, and 300 to 200 BCE. He's an Indian mathematician. Pingala, he created sutras in the famous book of prosody and meter. So Chandas stands for the speech determined by the number of syllables uttered, and that is one of the key points. Is it's the number of syllables that are uttered in a given time. And Chandas stands for covering the space of sound. So sound is the gift from the Lord, but that is kind of nicely packed, and that is packed with a gift wrap called Chandas. So Chandas root has many meanings. Ahladane means to please. Deeptaucha means shine. Achadane to cover. Avarane to envelope. Samvaranecha to cover totally. So it covers everything nicely, and that is also an important point of the Chandas. So when we are discussing this Chandas and we are singing something in Chandas, it will please our ears. It will shine the knowledge through the nice meter, and it covers the sound with beautiful coating, and it envelopes it so that it can gently pass through our minds and stay there and continue to stay there, and it will cover our complete intelligence so that it is packed properly in our deep brains. So Chandas is the covering of the space of the sound. Vocabulary. And aksharas or varnas are divided into swaras, vowels, and vyanjanas, consonants. One matra is the time required just to blink the eyelid. Vowels, hrasva, have one matra, and dirgha has two matras. Pluta means it has three matras, overlong or prolated vowels. Vyanjanas, which is consonants, half matra will be allotted to the time. So this is the overall vocabulary that will be used in the Chandas. Meter has three important parts. One is the strength, and the next one is length, which is pada or foot, which is the number of lines in each verse. Vritti is the rhythm. So far we have covered that Chandas is the envelope of the sound of the space, and then each meter Viz has three important things that are strength, which is it an Alpa Prana or is it a Maha Prana? The length of the pada each, and vritti, the rhythm at which the sound is sung across in the chanting process. Lagu and Guru definitions. A syllable is called lagu only if the vowel is hrasva, which is the short vowel, followed by one consonant before another vowel is encountered. That means there should be a vowel after the short vowel is the hrasva, and it is followed by one consonant before another vowel shows up, and that is called lagu. And a syllable with an anuswaram or visarga is always guru. All the other syllables are gurus, either because the vowel is dirgha, which is long, or because the hrasva vowel is followed by a consonant cluster. And Aksharamala, Sanskrit is such a beautiful language. As we see, the vowels are all written on the top and the consonants are all written in the bottom, and vowels are a, I, u, r, l, e, I, o, aha, and the gutturals, palatals, cerebrals, the dantas, which is the dentals, the labials that are used by the lips, and the semi-vowels, and the rest are mentioned there. It's a nice language where the sound starts to come from within. So all these are actually nicely structured, and in the way that the gutturals start from the back and palatals start next, and the cerebrals and the dentals and the labials, and the rest are actually listed here. So the syllables, that is the number of syllables in each pada, is 7, and the number of pada, which is the number of lines in the verse, are 4, and that chandas is called Ushnihi. Whereas if you have 8 syllables and we have 4 padas, and that is Anushtup. And Anushtup is one of the major concepts in Bhagavad Gita in terms of the prosody or the meter that is used is Anushtup. And we'll also see Anushtup being used in many other important verses that we actually know through different Vishnu Sahasranama and so on and so forth. Brihati, there are 4 padas and there are 9 syllables for it. That means there are 9 syllabi in each line and 4 padas. That means there are 4 lines. Pankti has 4 padas, but there are 10 syllables in each line. And the second most common in Bhagavad Gita is Trishtup, that has 4 padas, but it has 11 syllabi. And Jagati has 4 padas, but it also has 12 syllabi. So this is the order. The interesting thing about this concept is Prajapati, who is the Bhagavan's manifestation as the first person here, is given the different forms. So Prajapati's mouth is Gayatri, eye is Ushni, voice is Anushtup, mind is Brihati, ears are Pankti, and the generative breath is the Trishtup, and the downward breath is Jagati. And this is the analogy that was given. And another beautiful analogy that was given in Taittiriya Samhita is the beautiful imagery of the horse-drawn chariots. So Chandas as Gayatri and Jagati are the wheels of this beautiful chariot, whereas the side poles of the chariot are Ushni and Trishtup, and Anushtup and Pankti are the horses that are driving. As we see, Bhagavan Krishna is using the horses there, and most of the Bhagavad Gita is in the Anushtup, and that I kind of find that analogy very interesting, as he's using the horse of Anushtup to sing the Lord's song for most of the ride in the Bhagavad Gita. And the second one is the side pole. And if we remember, Bhagavan Hanuman is on one of the poles all the way to the top. He's watching everything, and he's on the Trishtup Chandas. So, and the Brihati is used as the seat, and Prajapati, the Lord himself, is riding the chariot there. It's a beautiful analogy for the horse-drawn chariot. And this is an important mnemonic that is used to divide these sounds. And so far we have covered the aksharas. Aksharas are divided into vowels and consonants. And the vowels can be used to define, along with the consonants, the Lagu and Guru, which we went through. And when the Lagu and Guru are divided into something called as Ganas, the Ganas are the sequence. And Acharya Pingala has used this Yamata Rajabhana Sa is the mnemonic. So Yamata, Lagu, Guru, Guru. How do we get it? So here we see Ya, Mata. Ya is the Lagu, Ma is the Guru, Ta is the Guru. So that kind of Gana is otherwise called as Ya Gana. And Ma Gana is the Ma, Ta, Ra. So they are all dirghams. So that's called as Guru, Guru, Guru. Whereas Ta, Ra, Ja, that is Guru, Guru, Lagu. That is otherwise called as the Ta Gana. And Ra, Ja, Bha, that is Guru, Lagu, Guru. That is otherwise called as Ra Gana. And Ja, Bha, Na, that is a Lagu, Guru, Lagu. And so on and so forth. And this is nicely described by Acharya G.S.S. Murthy, characterizing classical Anushtup in his beautiful book called A Study of Sanskrit Prosody. And this is the overall main gist of what we are going to talk. So it's a busy slide. Kindly pardon me, but this will give us the outlay of what we're going to talk about. So far, just to summarize, we have understood Veda is the body and Vedanga is the Chandas. And Chandas is going to carry Veda across, and it has Aksharas. Out of Aksharas, we have vowels and we have consonants. And vowels and consonants together, in the different concepts together, they form Lagu and Guru. And Lagu's definition and Guru's definition were clearly observed. And now we have learned about the mnemonic Yamata Rajabanasa. And with that concept, the next thing is to understand how the 5 different kinds of chandas, which is used in Bhagavad Gita, namely Anushtup. But we are going to create 4 names. The other 4 together are nothing but the Trishtup. But they have different differences. So they are called Indra Vajra, Upendra Vajra, Upajati, and Viparita Purva. The 646 verses in the simple Anushtup Chandas that has 4 quarters, and each quarter has 8 syllables. When we add everything together, we get 32 syllabi. There are 10 verses of Indra Vajra Chandas, which has 4 quarters. That means there are 4 lines, but each line has 11 syllables in each quarter. So when we add everything up, there are 44 syllables. Each quarter of this Chandas begins with a Guruvakshara, which is the heavy syllable. So Indra begins with a heavy syllable. So Indra, Guru. And that's how we can connect those two. And we'll go with some examples. There are 4 verses in the Upendra Vajra Chandas. And those begin with a Laguvakshara, light syllable. But both Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra are very close, except the first syllable is heavy in the Indra Vajra. There are 37 verses of Upajati, that is a combination of both Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra Chandas. There are 4 verses in the Viparita Purva Chandas, which is just a special name that is given to one of the 14 variants of Upajati Chandas. Upajati Chandas is nothing but a combination of Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra together in different combinations. So this is Anushtup Chandas definition. So how Anushtup is defined as Panchamam Lagu Sarvatra Saptamam Vichatirtayoh Guru Shashtam Cha Padanam Chaturnam Syad Anushtubi. So this is beautifully defined, and this is all we need to know about Anushtup. And next time, anytime we are reading something, we can understand if it belongs to Anushtup Chanda, if we understand this one definition. I'm going to break it down here. Following represents the Anushtup constraint. It has to have 32 syllabi, which is nothing but 4 quarters of 8 syllables each. The S syllable here in this particular line is the Laghu, and L denotes the long syllable, which is the Guru. And as we talked about, Panchamam Lagu Sarvatra, meaning the 5th one. The first 4 have no significance. The 5th one, Panchamam Lagu Sarvatra, in the 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter. All 4 quarters, you see S as the Lagu. Means the 5th letter or the 5th syllable is always Lagu. Saptamam Vichaturtayoh. That means the 2nd and the 4th quarters are also Lagu. And that is actually of what letter? The 7th letter. And that is the Dvichaturtayoh, but it is Saptamam, the 7th letter. And then we can also see Guru Shashtam Cha Padanam. That means Guru is across all. The 6th syllable is always Guru. Chaturnam Syad Anushtubihi. 4 quarters are present. So that is this is a simple rule. Next time, anytime we look at any verse, you can identify this pattern, then it belongs to Anushtup. So as we see, the 5 points of each quarter do not control the definition, It's only 3 syllabi of each quarter that make it clear that this belongs to Anushtup or not. And this is flexible enough compared to other meters, making it a very popular choice for shloka composition. Anushtup meter is like a temple. So this template, it calls for 8 syllabi in each quarter, which makes the verse length 32 syllables. So anytime you see 32 syllables and it has 4 padas, then and you can look at 5, 6, 7 syllables and figure out this particular pattern where the 5th one is always lagu, then the rest are all falling in this particular pattern, then it comes to Anushtup Chandas. So now let's take an example. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir-bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So in this clearly, as we see, the first, second, third and fourth, you start to see the same pattern that is described in the bottom here. SLL, SLL, SCs, the short vowel, which is the laghu. The L is the long vowel, which is the guru. So you can all see the trend that is happening there. And Anushtup meter puts a light constraint on the landing of the odd and even quarters, like the gate of Bhagwan. So there is the right foot and the left foot, and the right perhaps has a little deeper sound than the left here. So that beautiful concept actually gets the mind very, very pleasant. So that particular concept is giving that ahladane, and that is the reason Anushtup Chandas is very popular. So now these are all the verses of Bhagavad Gita summarized into a single table, and here we can see there is Vipula Anushtup and there is also Patya Vaktra Anushtup, and these two Anushtups are also divided separately. As we see, there is chapter 1 all the way going down to 18 chapters, and you can see most of the song, like most of the Bhagavad Gita is sung in Anushtup, as we talked about 646. And Upajati is the combination of Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra. And the miscellaneous, which are separately Indra Vajra or Upendra Vajra. And I feel it fascinating that most of the special verses are actually used in chapter 11. Which is where Bhagavan actually shows up. He's like Viswarupa Darshan is where the melody starts to really take the peak. And it is almost in the center chapter before Arjuna's bhakti starts to flow in the 12th chapter. So the Anushtup starts to transform into Trishtup, and how beautifully sage Vyasa. It just gives me goosebumps to think on how he planned so meticulously. No human can ever design this kind of project. Never. It's not possible. I have read many books in my life because of my profession, but this book gives me so much of depth. The more I learn, the more I don't know anything about it. Actually, when I thought I'd start this project and presentation, I thought I knew something, but the more I learn, the more I don't know. Because of this presentation, I have to buy 10 more books to learn all this, because I'm just so novice in the whole concept. There is so much of depth to this one book that has 700 verses. But it mesmerizes my soul. So I believe there is something more Bhagavan is trying to tell us. He's trying to decode our soul in the journey to this ever-ending and everlasting, beautiful journey. Am I right? So I don't know whether I'll ever reach Bhagavan, but as long as Bhagavan is with me and the chandas is flowing through my mind, I feel that the Trishtup has that magic. And that is where the Indra Vraja and the Upendra Vajra, I'm sorry, it's Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra. They create this beautiful idea in the head of the Vishwarupam. And we can also see, as Bhagavan actually is going into the end of the chapter, he comes back again into the Anushtup. So he keeps it very simple in the beginning, which is also in the Anushtup, and slowly the difference between the Patya Vaktra and Vipula, this is actually the Anushtup Chandas. There are two different types, and these are in the Pada 1 and Pada 3 and Pada 2 and Pada 4. They are different kind of ganas. That is the only difference. But if anybody, any student is interested to learn more, about how the difference of these two, or they can actually start to look into those specific examples. And this will give us more enlightenment of how each one is different, what emotion is coming out of this Anushtup, and why Bhagavan or somebody who sang that particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita, it could be Sanjaya, it could be Arjuna, it could be Bhagavan, and you start to understand which emotion they're using the Patya Vaktra or Vipula, then there might be a deeper meaning. I have not explored this yet, but I think that side of exploration is going to be enchanting in my opinion. So Trishtup Chandas, this is the second Chandas. So we just completed the most commonly used Chandas, which is the Anushtup, and now we are moving into Trishtup Chandas. This has 4 padas, but each pada now has 11 syllables. So 4 times 11 makes 44 syllables together. The first one is Indra Vajra, the next one is Upendra Vajra, and then Upajati, that is a combination of Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra, and then Viparita Purva, which is one of the 14 variants of Upajati Chandas. So Indra Vajra, Syayadindra Vajra Yaditau Jagau Gaha. So this is the definition, that's all it is. And now let's break it down. So the Tagana has the first 2 are actually the lines when horizontal in the Sanskrit description, that is regarded as the long vowel. Any U that is regarded as the short, which is actually Lagu. So the first 2 are Gurus. So when we have 2 Gurus, which we can see next to the third line here in the bottom one, which is the Ta. So Ta has Guru, Guru, Lagu, which is Ta, Ra, Ja, Ta, Ra, Ja. That is the Tagana. So Tagana has Ta, Ta, Ja. And then the last 2 are Gurus. So that is the trend for the Indra Vajra, and every line has 11 syllabi. So next time when we are reading Bhagavan's Bhagavad Gita, if I see 11 syllables in one line, then I need to know I'm not going to use my Anushtup Chandas here. I got to use Trishtup. And if the first letter is a Guru, then it's Indra Vajra. Whereas if the first letter in that is a Lagu, then it becomes Upendra Vajra. So Indra is the Guru and Upendra is the Lagu. And we'll see that in a little bit. I just want to context and also contrast those 2 things. There are 10 verses in the Indra Vajra Chandas, which have 4 quarters with 11 syllables in each quarter, adding up to 44 syllables in a verse. Each quarter of this Chandas begins with a Guru Akshara, which is a heavy syllable. Our Guruji always says, take time to pronounce each of the syllables to the number of matras, because each syllable is like a temple. And I constantly still make a lot of mistakes and I'm trying to improve, but I think that's where all the trained mind spend is on what Akshara. There is no rush. Bhagavan is always waiting for us. We should never rush. We should always slow down and enjoy the chant and enjoy the time we are spending. But it takes a lot of breath control and also a lot of holding and also prolonging those sounds in the right rhythm. As we talked about the strength, the length, and the vritti, which is the rhythm. All 3 are important. So Gita 8.28, Vedeshu Yagneshu Tapaschaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Phalam Pradishtam Atyeti Yat Sarvamidam Viditva Yogi Param Sthanam Upaiti Chadhyam. So this is starting with the long, the way. So it's easy. We can see there are 11 syllabi, and the first one is Ve. That itself is a Guru. So because it starts with a Guru and it has 11 syllabi, right there, the clue is given by Bhagavan, like this is Indra Vajra. Because you can see the second line is also starting with a Guru. The third one is also Atye. That is also Guru because of the definition. Yo, it is also Guru. So all the lines are starting with Guru. And because this is a Trishtup Chandas with a Guru start in all the lines, then it is Indra Vajra. Very simple to recognize this. And this is the last important secret is Bhagavan is telling us in Akshara Parabrahma chapter. And what is he telling? Vedeshu yagneshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadhyam. The yogis who know this secret gain merit far beyond the fruits of Vedic rituals. O Arjuna, the study of Vedas, performance of sacrifices, austerities and charities don't even get you there, but there is beyond that, and that's the secret in Akshara Parabrahma chapter. Bhagavan is telling Arjuna, such yogis reach the supreme abode. So there is a depth to this, and that's the reason I feel there is a lot of depth in how Bhagavan Vyas has used all his talent, because he is the Bhagavan himself. So just understanding these scriptures make me so humble that why we need these multiple janmas. And Bhagavan clearly says, if you learn something and if something happens to your body, don't worry, I'll bring the soul back to a better place so you can be better student and better learn and you'll meet better gurus. And I think that's how all these people I've met in GTOB. I don't even know how I got here, but I connect all these and it feels like a journey that I don't have any memory of what I left at last time. But I feel like it's a very enchanting way to look at these chandas and the Bhagavad Gita and the promise of the Lord and develop like so much of bhakti to him, because he's blessing us. Show me gratitude, I'll take you, I will carry you around. And these are the secrets you need to know on how to lead your life. So Upendra Vajra. So Upendra Vajra, again clear, this is Upendra Vajra Jataja Stato Gau. Again, Upendra Vajra Jataja Stato Gau. So here, the first one is a Ja, because there is Lagu, Guru, and Lagu again. So the first one is a Lagu, but the whole pattern between the other two are exactly the same. So the last two are always Gurus, and the first one is Ja, which is nothing but the Lagu is starting. And as you see, Ja is actually the fifth one in the name of the Ganas. Ja is Lagu, Guru, Lagu. So Lagu, Guru, Lagu is the significance of Upendra Vajra. Whereas if you look at Indra Vajra, the Indra Vajra is always Ta, Ta, Ja. Whereas the Upendra Vajra is Ja, Ta, Ja. But the Gaga are in both of the things, both of the chandas. So I believe this is a very classic example of contrasting. And if you see both of the patterns together, then it becomes Upajati. And we'll try to see if we can find a verse of Upajati as well. So now we are done with Indra Vajra, Upendra Vajra, and now we are going to try to chant the 11th chapter 45th sloka. Adrishta purvam hrishitosmi drishtva bhayena pravyatitam mano me tadeva me darshaya deva rupam prasida devesha jagannivasa. Having seen your universal form, Bhagavan, that I had never seen before, I feel great joy, and yet my mind trembles with fear. Please have mercy on me, my Lord. Again, show me your pleasing form, O God of gods, O abode of the universe. So here, because Arjuna is actually trying to understand Bhagavan's Vishwarupa Sandarsanam, so that's where the whole difference of different types of chandas also were used in this 11th chapter. There is a lot of Trishtup in the 11th chapter. That's my understanding. And we can see on how the first one is always a haraswam. A, bha, ta, pra. So all those are haraswams. And because there are 11 syllabi in each line, and the last two are dirgha. Manome, Deva Rupam. Anything with a visarga, pam. Deva Rupam. Because there is visarga, or Anuswaram, one of the two, because Rupam is a Anuswaram, and if you have a Visarga also, those are called Gurus. And that's the reason Deva Rupam becomes Guru at the end. So you start with a Lagu, and it is a 11 syllables, and it has 4 lines, and it always starts with a Lagu, and that becomes Upendra Vajra Chandas. And that is actually a beautiful difference between the two. And now Upajati is different combinations. These different combinations will actually be clearly shown in beautiful second chapter. And we can see 5 to 9 are Upajatis. And 8th chapter, 9, 10, 11 are also Upajatis. 9th chapter, 20th and 21st are also Upajatis. And you can see the 15th chapter, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, along with 11th in a sequence are Upajatis. These are very famous. So now, Vajra Chandas in Bhagavad Gita. 8th chapter is 28th verse, which we talked about, Akshara Parabrahma. And the 11th chapter, which is the Viswarupa Sandarsanam, that's where the Upendra Vajra, and we talked about the verse as well. In the 15th chapter, the 5th and the 15th verses are Indra Vajra as well. So now, let's try this example. I love this verse. Ascharyavat paschidi kaschidenam ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyaha ascharyavaschainam manyasrunoti srutvapenam vedana chaiva kaschit. As we see, the first syllable is a. So because these are 11 syllabi in each one, and clearly this one is starting with 3 different, the first 3 lines are all gurus, because there is a lot of prolongation. Ascharyavat, ascharyavat, ascharyavat manya srunoti. Then Bhagavan says, Srutva penam vedana chaiva kasti. You look at the soul, you can understand it. You learn about the soul, you can understand it. And then you constantly talk about it, you can understand it. After you even listen and you read, even then you can understand, because Bhagavan's Maya, this is beautiful. And this is the last one, is actually the not Guru but Lagu. So this is a Upajati. And as I gave it away because it's in the 2nd chapter. If you look at the 2nd chapter, 29th verse, that is Upajati right there. So now I'm going to start to go and enjoy the Bhagavad Gita slokas, looking at how different things I can find. If we have kids, we can start to give them some homework, or I can do some homework. So we'll start to mesmerize with each sloka together and understand like what chandas it is. It'll be a nice chandas quiz. I got so many different ideas now that you can spend time on how we can actually do a little antakshari with the Upajati, Indravaja, Upendra Vaja, Anushtup, and a lot of different combinations. You can actually learn Bhagavad Gita, enjoy Bhagavad Gita, try to live Bhagavad Gita, and like try to breathe Bhagavad Gita, because as soon as we start breathing it, our mind becomes very calm. So that's what this particular Ascharyam is like, the amazingness of the amazing. So this is the summary slide. The 646 verses of Bhagavad Gita are in Anushtup meter. The remaining verses, the 55 out of the 701. How did we get the one sloka extra? Because initially, when Vyasa Bhagavan wrote it, he only wrote 700. But just to kind of give the 13th chapter a good start, because people like me don't understand why only Bhagavan spoke the whole 13th chapter. So Arjuna just raises a question, and that was introduced later on. And that's how the first, the 701, the one comes out of the first sloka of the 13th chapter. And either they are mixed Upajati, that is 49 out of the 701 slokas, or the Indrabraja or Upendravaja pure variants are 6 out of 701 slokas. So this is another thing I was actually looking at, and I was mesmerized. I found this online. A great devotee has done a beautiful, very times consuming. I don't know how they actually did all this, but thanks to them. How many Bhagavan spoke, how many verses, and how many verses Arjuna spoke, how many did Sanjaya speak. how many did Dhritarashtra speak? The first verse of the first chapter is the only thing Dhritarashtra spoke, the king Dhritarashtra. And then Sanjaya was a dominant player in the first chapter. And then as we go into the chapter, only in the 11th chapter, Arjuna actually starts to use all his vocabulary trying to describe Bhagavan, because that is actually the Vishwarupa Darsana. And as you can see, the rest of all of it, 82%, I calculated by percentage, 82% is Bhagavan's pure verses. Then I started to understand where is this 80 coming from. So in a human body, close to 80% of it is water. He said he is part of us. Even in Bhagavad Gita, he's saying like 80% of me is, I'm just the one who is talking, and everybody is just standing there and listening. And Arjuna, as a student, he's dominating with questions in the beginning, but as he surrendered in the second chapter, 7th verse, then he became silent until the 11th chapter. And before he starts talking again, he asked very little questions in each chapter. As you see in Karma Yoga, you only ask 3 questions. And in the second chapter, one of the slokas that we all love, our Guruji always says again and again is, how does the Sthita Prajna walk, right? How does he behave? How does he think? How does he talk? And that's actually one of the 6 slokas. And then Bhagavan actually says, this is one of the most important verses of the whole Bhagavad Gita in my mind. And Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Sthita Prajnas Tadochyate. And then Bhagavan also says in another chapter, it's the seventh chapter, because no discussion is happening in the 7th chapter by Arjuna himself, and he's telling the whole Jnanam concept there, and he says, Mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigananiva. Oh Dhananjaya, the one who actually got all the wealth in the world. Oh Dhananjaya, there is nothing more valuable than me. Get me. What is all this wealth, Arjuna? And I am the sutra, and everybody is the money. Connect with me, Arjuna. That is what he's saying. And in the 7th chapter, 7th sloka, that is mesmerizing to me. He's like on top of the 7 hills, and he's pointing the direction. Go to the 7th verse. 7.7 is this verse. Try to live by this life. There are 7 days, and we have to walk 7 times around the fire to connect together as a soulmate with the other person, and she's called Dharma Patni. I actually thought I knew Bhagavad Gita until my wife started to understand Bhagavad Gita. Now I know how ignorant I am. So she's making me a different person every day. Until I was the only one who started reading initially, but later on she started reading, and she's more expert than anybody in our family. So we are all learning from her. So now I think it is interesting. Like then I connected the 7.7 has this beautiful combination. So I am going to just say this one thing, because I'm sorry, Govinda. I know for sure I made a lot of mistakes in this whole presentation. Yadakshara pada brashtam matrahinam tu yad bhavet tat sarvam kshamyatam deva narayana namostute visarga bindu matrani pada padani sharani cha Nyunani Chatiriktani Shamaswa Purushottama Shamaswa Purushottama Shamaswa Purushottama. Meaning, forgive me for any mistakes in letter, word, syllable, or pronunciation that may have occurred inadvertently in my chanting. Please forgive me, Bhagavan Ganesha, and Bhagavan, please. In my words were left out, or I sometimes might have added extra which were unnecessary. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Govinda. These are the resources. There are many resources. I love the TTD ebook. It's free. It's called Chandas as Vedanga. And another book by Swami Ram Sukdas has the last paragraph after each chapter he wrote in Bhagavad Gita. he wrote which verse is what, but it was nicely summarized in the whole table of one of the bhaktas. And Sanskrit from home.in, there are so many YouTube videos by them that I learned so much, and I think I'll continue to learn. This is just probably I only learned 0.0001%, so I have to start learning. And sanskritdocuments.org has this beautiful book by Acharya GSS Murthy, and it was beautiful. And I also like the Brahman is one blog spot as well for some of the tables I got. Special thanks. And I truly believe that I don't know where I did something. I got connected to GTOB and it changed my life, and it changed my family's life, including my wife's. So thank you so much. GTOB, I owe you everything. And the selfless teachers, I've never seen anybody like Sri Devi ji. Like, she's almost like Ammavaru. The whole Mata concept is in her. She spends so much of time teaching all of the students like us. She gives out all the personal time. Saji ji always gives out, I don't know how many presentations he does. He spends like hours and hours creating these beautiful presentations, Saji ji. And Sri Valsa ji, I really bow upon you for taking up everything for our Gita classes in all these times. Thank you so much. We appreciate all your classes. I love looking for the Friday classes. My humble pranams to all my learned classmates. There are so many intellectually stimulating people in our class that it is mind-blowing. I'm always excited to start my day with Bhagavad Gita chanting class, a group. And I love just mesmerizing myself with the way people think in that group. An audience, I don't know where you are, but please accept my pranams to you. Maybe some of my family members are also there. Thank you so much. Be all safe. Anita Ravipati, she's my med school classmate. She's the one who introduced me to the GTOB group. So thank you, Anita. And then the only thing I own in this presentation is my mistakes. I know I made thousands and thousands of them. Everything else, if I did something okay, that belongs only to my Guru and my Govinda. So thank you, Guru, and thank you, Govinda. And this is a little salutation to my Guru. Guru Reva Gatihi Guru Meva Bhaje Guru Naiva Sahasmi Namo Gurave Na Guru Paramam Shishurasmi Guru Matirasti Guru Mama Pahi Guru Matirasti Guru Mama Pahi Guru Matirasti Guru Mama Pahi Guru. The Guru is my sole refuge. I worship only the Guru, who is the form of Govinda in this body for me. I am always with my Guru. In my thought, salutations to the Guru. There is none higher than my Guru. I am a child of my Guru. My intellect is firmly fixed in my Guru. Oh Guru, protect me. Even Bhagavan says, when Guru and me come together and there is only a little path, let the Guru go first, not me, because without the Guru, you'll never understand me. And that is actually how we feel from all our classmates together, feel about all of you, Sri Devi ji, Shaji ji, and also Sri Valsa ji. Pranams, pranams, pranams. And I just want people to approach me with any corrections. And thank you. Please teach me and send any comments to Govinda Bhakta, BHAKTHA, because there is another email that says KTA. That is not mine. There are two H's. BHAKTHA @gmail.com. Hari Om. Thank you so much. Thank you.
What a wonderful presentation, Bhaskar ji. It's a spellbound one.